has shown up again at North Carolina Motor Speedway. The attendance given us 37,231. That's even more than was estimated last week when we had rain that halted this race after 143 laps. Well, the race record here in Rockingham is held by Bobby Allison. It was set on March 4th of 1979 at 121.727 miles an hour. In this race here this afternoon, this is the way they stack up. The leader of the contest, now with 344 laps completed, is Neil Bonnet. 2 seconds behind is Jeff Bodine. In third place is Richard Petty. Fourth place, Cale Yarborough. Darrell Waltrip is in fifth. Sixth place belongs to Tim Richmond. Seventh is Bobby Allison. Eighth, Ron Bouchard. Ninth, Bill Elliott. And 10th is Ricky Rudd.
I think they snuck a ringer in on us there, Bob, with Bouchard. But Ronnie Bouchard is running with the top 10 cars, although remember that Ronnie was involved in that Joe Ruttman incident early on in the race and lost several laps.
There is the leader, Neil Bonnet. Let's go back down to the pit area and Dick Berggren.
And with Butch Mock in the pit area, Neil Bonnet's car. Butch, what's the fuel strategy from here?
Well, we're going to make at least one more stop. We can run about 100 laps on gas.
One more stop for sure.
Yeah, one and maybe a little bit more after that. Depends on the caution flag.
Butch Mock says the fuel strategy will depend on the caution flags.
Well, Neil Bonnet in that Chevrolet looking good here. He qualified at 142.337 miles an hour, and that was good enough for second starting position, and right now he's the leader.
Back time at 492 laps in this race. You heard just Butch Mock say they go 100 laps in a tank.
This is the battle for fifth and sixth position. It involves Bobby Allison and Darrell Waltrip onto the tri-oval. Bobby Allison led this race earlier, and you can see them sneaking up on Cale Yarborough among others. Fifth and sixth position battle, Bobby Allison in the number 22, Miller High Life Dyguard Chevrolet, and Darrell Waltrip, who is sixth, in the number 11 Pepsi Chevrolet.
And they just eclipsed the man who turned in the second most number of completed laps a year ago, Buddy Arrington. Yes, believe it or not, look at those, Buddy, that blue car, the Petty blue on the inside, and the Chrysler product. He was second only to Waltrip last year, total number of laps turned in on the racetrack.
349 laps have been completed. 492 will make up this race. As we continue to follow this fifth and sixth position race between Bobby Allison and Darrell Waltrip. One other driver that we have not talked too much about this race, but who had a tremendous race at the Daytona International Raceway. That is Bill Elliott, the driver of car number 9. He was among those 4 cars that came down to battle for the win, and Bill Elliott wound up in second position, and he also finished well in the Richmond 400, finishing in 6th. He, of course, is the driver of the Melling Oil Pump Ford from Dawsonville, Georgia, Bill Elliott.
The adopted son of the city of Jackson, Michigan, and maybe the entire Wolverine state of Michigan, Bill Elliott. He was an occasional runner in Grand National Stock Car Racing until last season, 1981, when Harry Melling and the Melling Tool Company decided to support this young man's Grand National efforts. He made the most of it, and he has been rewarded with enough money to go the entire distance in 1983. This guy might be right near the top in the standings all year long. His young, inexperienced, but very expert crew has shown that they have the ability to keep a car on the racetrack all race long.
And Dick Berggren has moved to the Bill Elliott pit and is with Ernie Elliott.
Ernie, how are you folks running today?
Well, right now we're still a lap down. So first of all, we got to worry about getting our lap back. We feel like we're running good enough. Let's get our lap back.
Why did you decide to not run the new Thunderbird here today?
Pardon?
Why did you decide to not run the new Thunderbird today?
Well, aerodynamically, it's really of no advantage here. It'll work better on the super speedways than it will here. Plus, we've only got 183 cars, so.
That's Ernie Elliott, crew chief for Bill Elliott.
Well, last year, Bill wound up 13th in the Winston Cup standings and won $226,000. He has finished second 5 times in his career. He is only 27. And whenever I see the Bill Elliott crew, I always think of our experience in Atlanta last year when we participated in a pit stop with that crew.
Good, I'm glad you think about that.
He did a great job, by the way.
Little problem with the jack man. Yours truly.
On the screen, the battle for fourth position, and Bobby Allison, it appears, yes, he has indeed gotten by Cale Yarborough, and Bobby Allison now moves into fourth position. Cale drops back to fifth, and we have been watching Cale Yarborough very closely out there in the last few laps, and he doesn't appear to be running particularly well.
No, the car has looked loose, particularly through the banking and the turns, the tri-oval and down the backstretch. Seems to fit pretty good, but when he's right in the middle of the corners, the car is squirming a little bit on him, and Cal is holding on. There you see him going through 1 and 2. With a real close inspection, you can see that car just jumping around a little bit, and it's just enough to prevent him from going as hard as he would like to and as hard as he has to really keep up with the rest of the front runners. This Grand National Stock Car Racing is truly a game of microcentimeters. You've got to really be right at the top of your game. The passing of this football game has to be letter perfect and pinpoint for you to be able to run up front. It takes just literally hundreds of seconds. That is the difference between first and fifth in this game.
Cale Yarborough now stands the risk of losing that position because right behind him is Darrell Waltrip, who is running in sixth position. So we have the battle between fifth and sixth here. There they are, Cale Yarborough in the 28 and Darrell Waltrip in number 11. Bobby Allison right ahead of them in fourth position. Leader continues to be Neil Bonnet, but our position, as it always is on our auto racing telecast, is to bring you the battles and not necessarily follow the leader. The leader, Neil Bonnet, with a relatively comfortable lead. Second place belonging to Jeff Bodine. There's the leader, Neil Bonnet. Jeff Bodine is in second position. And the third place car, Richard Petty. The good racing right now involving fourth, fifth, and sixth. Bobby Allison, Cale Yarborough, and Darrell Waltrip.
There's Bonnet coming out of turn number 4, past the entrance to the pits, down through the tri-oval, across the start-finish line. He pitted last on lap 271, so that means we are about 10 or 15 laps from the cars having to pit again. If he pits on lap 4, or rather 371, as you can see, he may have to make 2 more stops for fuel. He might be cutting it close.
We talked about drivers who did very well at Daytona. Here is one of them. Dick Brooks finished 5th. His best Carolina 500 finish was a 3rd back in 1979. Dick finished 5th at Daytona this year and 13th at Richmond. He formerly made his home in Porterville, California. Now has moved into the southeast to run competitively with the Winston Cup NASCAR circuit. Dick Brooks.
Bob, you know, I had an interesting conversation with him earlier this week. I asked him what was his biggest moment in racing. Remember, he was the surprise winner at Talladega about a decade ago, and he said without a doubt his biggest moment in racing was when he completed the 24 hours of Le Mans. The population, the countryside spilled over to the racetrack when he took the checkered flag, and they had to take the car behind a barn somewhere and impound it. But he said by far and away his biggest emotional moment.
As we pick up on this battle for 5th position once again between Cale Yarborough and Darrell Waltrip. Into turn number 1 the cars go. Cale Yarborough maintaining that 5th position right now. But now Waltrip moving to the inside as they go down the backstretch. How do these cars make it to a particular race? Well, that's the subject as ESPN and NASCAR present a track back brought to you by Pepsi.
It's hard to believe that in the early days of Grand National Stock Car Racing, they actually towed these race cars to the track with a tow bar. Well, trailers quickly replaced the tow bar as the cars rapidly became too sophisticated to actually meet the highway from race to race. Well, as sponsors became involved, the enclosed haulers, primarily for the equipment, became a part and became a mainstay of Grand National Stock Car Racing. Well, the 1960s, the 1970s came along, and these crew cabs surfaced with most of the top teams as more and more of the equipment became protected from the elements as they traversed across the country. And then the 1980s, things have changed quite a bit. These rigs, the cab alone in many cases worth over $100,000, add the cost of the trailer and you're in the vicinity of $250,000, are a complete facility, not only for the people and the race teams that travel with all the comforts of home, sometimes a kitchen and an office, but also for the race car. All the tools and equipment, sometimes 2 complete cars on the inside, and even the parts for a 3rd car. And on top of everything else, it's the best seat in the house.
Here's the situation at Carolina Motor Speedway with 127 laps complete. Neil Bonnet, the leader. Jeff Bodine second. Richard Petty is third. Back with more after these messages. We are at Rockingham, North Carolina. North Carolina Motor Speedway with 394 laps completed. Jeff Bodine leads this race in number 88. Here he is battling with the 5th place car, Cale Yarborough. And Jeff Bodine is about to put Yarborough a lap down on the field. There are 5 cars on the lead lap, soon to be 4 possibly, if Bodine can pass Cale Yarborough. And Yarborough goes way high in turn number 1. And Jeff Bodine is able to put a lap on Cale Yarborough. So now only 4 cars are on the lead lap. They are, besides the leader Bodine, 2nd place Neil Bonnet, 3rd place Richard Petty, and 4th Bill Elliott.
And when you see a leader working that hard to lap a guy who's in the top 5 this late in the race, the only reason why Bodine's taking chances like that is he's feeling very confident. He feels he's got a lot left in that race car, and he wants to get as much distance between himself and the rest of the field as he possibly can. I had the feeling, Bob, that if he thought he was running on the ragged edge, he would not have done that. That was a tough move going into that number 1 corner. He took a chance trying to keep his line between the lap car and Cale. I mean, really kind of a gutsy move, too. A little bit of intimidation going on there between those 2 race drivers.
Well, it's been quite a story for Jeff Bodine, who was a lap down when the green flag came out at 12:30 this afternoon. And now 2 hours later is leading the event and has lapped all but 3 other cars. There is Jeff Bodine, the Pleasant Garden, North Carolina driver, last year's Rookie of the Year in Winston Cup competition.
It is beginning to sit down, Bob. We see Bodine showing all sorts of muscle. Bonnet has not let Bodine get out of his sight. Richard Petty is still right in there within a half a lap of the leader Bodine. And another guy who is hanging in there, who now resides in 4th position, the only other car other than the 3 aforementioned on the lead lap, is Elliott. Bill Elliott. He may be the fastest car on the track right now. Bodine has not been able to move in on Bill.
Continuing to watch Jeff Bodine, the leader of this race, and you can see the interval now that he has made over Cale Yarborough as the cars enter turn number 3 now. There is Bodine out of turn number 4 onto the tri-oval, completing lap 400. 400 laps have been completed now, 92 to go. Can Jeff Bodine hold on to the lead to win his first Grand National race?
Most of the leaders pitted around lap 370. Remember, they should be able to go about 100 miles, about 100 laps on this racetrack on a load of fuel. So we anticipate some last 20 laps. And Bodine way out of the racing groove there momentarily, coming out of turn number 4. And Bodine slowing either because of getting so high out of the groove or maybe something wrong with the car. Again, he finds himself side by side with Yarborough.
Oh, and he spins. Jeff Bodine, the leader, crashes in turn number 2. The car smacking the wall. Well, there was obviously something wrong with the car in turn 4. And Richard Petty slams on the brakes and is able to get by. Jeff Bodine, leading this race, has crashed in turn number 2. What a development.
Boy, Bob, I tell you, I don't know. We had an opportunity to see that one all the way, and Jeff darted out of the racing groove coming out of turn number 4. At first, I thought he was just moving high to go around DK Allred, who he was putting a lap on, but he never really seemed to get back a hold of the race car. Maybe something was going wrong. There's still debris flying around the backstretch from the collision. Jeff moving around inside the car, I'm sure very disappointed. He sure looked like he was en route to victory number 1 in this league.
Well, this is what happened as he went into turn number 2 on the high side of Cale Yarborough. Jeff Bodine, the rear end getting out from under him, and the car darting to the outside of the racetrack, and heavy contact with the wall.
And look at Yarborough saying, what do I do? And Bodine's car made the decision for Yarborough. His car continued to go to the high side, and Yarborough just stayed down low and darted under. Watch for Petty. Petty was pinned up against the outer retaining wall. May have picked up some debris. You'll see him scoot by on the high side. Watch for that Petty blue STP orange car. There he goes. By and misses him.
So a lot of pit activity is now being conducted in front of us as Petty and Neil Bonnet are into the pit area. There is Richard Petty. getting some fresh rubber on the right side of that car. Now they move to the other side and change the rubber on the other side. Here is Neil Bonnet, who was leading when Bodine crashed, and rubber being changed on the left side of that car now. Neil Bonnet's crew has completed the work, and away he goes.
Well, theoretically, everybody should now be able to go the distance. Although I'll tell you what, I think the yellow is a little early, because somebody who's not getting real good mileage may be cutting it a little close. You're going to have to go a clean 90, 91 laps, and there may be some people who are not doing that well.
And there is Jeff Bodine, who has climbed out of his car. We're glad to see that he's okay, but he's out of the race. More activity from Rockingham after this.